I was in the Brahmachari ashram just finishing getting ready. I actually remember this. I was folding the pleats in my sari, and all of a sudden the cry went around, Srila Prabhupada is here! Srila Prabhupada is here! And for all of the devotees who were here when Prabhupada was on the planet, that was a wonderful sound to hear. So I went dashing to the top of the stairs. And the top of the stairs in Burnett Street, if you stood at the top of the stairs, you'd have a complete direct view to the front door. And just as I reached the front of the top of the stairs, I looked down, and Srila Prabhupada had just come out of the car, and he was framed in the door jamb. And it was absolutely conviction at first sight. As soon as I saw Srila Prabhupada, I completely had the realization that everything, excuse me, I always get choked up at this, everything the devotees said about Srila Prabhupada was 110% grounded in fact. And the effulgence that emanated from Srila Prabhupada's body, this is not sentiment, this is not because we love Prabhupada so much that we're exaggerating. Srila Prabhupada's form was in a completely transcendental form. And as soon as I saw Prabhupada standing there with his head held high, I knew, I understood that he was my spiritual master for eternity. So we were very, very fortunate to have that conviction at first sight. But there's lots of other little anecdotes, but I won't hog the microphone. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak. And would you please offer a prayer to my brother, Frank Wilkinson. Hare Krishna.
We only went swimming once in Bondi.
We did go swimming. We were wearing petticoats and cholies.
But did you have pillows?
No, we didn't have pillows here in Melbourne Temple. That was totally Maya. Oh no, I didn't. Pillows? Absolute Maya. No, Krishna has given some wonderful insights into the Burnett Street Temple. And there is a progression between that and the opening of this wonderful temple by Srila Prabhupada in 1975. The Burnett Street Temple, if you can try to imagine, was a terraced house. And so there was a bedroom upstairs, and that was the Brahmachari ashram, and there was another bedroom, that was the Brahmachari ashram. There was one stool house, we used to call it, down the backyard, and from 3:30 in the morning there were lines of brahmacharis and brahmacharinis waiting to use that one dunny. I remember when Srila Prabhupada did come in 1974, it was the most exciting event of my entire life for the Founder-Acharya, and quite a few of us were initiated at that time in Burnett Street. I think 6 or 8 were my Swami, do you remember? Right.
Yeah, it wasn't that many.
But if you can try to imagine, this was really the converted living room of a terrace house. And so one end was the altar, and the other end was the Vyasa-san. So it was really quite small. And there was, of course, a fire yagya, which was fantastic. And then I actually looked around, and both my parents were there and my younger sister. I hadn't told them about it, so I don't know how they got there. But anyways, the fire yagya sort of went on. There was all this smoke, and I was sort of looking at my family. The devotees were totally transcendental, and of course Srila Prabhupada was just going on with the whole ceremony. But the temple was actually full of smoke, and my parents told me later that they thought they were going to die of smoke inhalation. So there are many reasons, why we needed a bigger, more spacious temple. Also because the temple couldn't accommodate a lot of guests on Sunday feasts and things like that. So during the course of this wonderful festival, you will have seen footage of Prabhupada on morning walks along the esplanade. And if my understanding is right, Prabhupada was actually looking at different properties as he was walking, and wanted actually a much larger property, which was unattainable at that time, and then this one was available. And from that point on, the Sankirtan devotees just went into high gear. Now, there are some devotees in this room I know who would love me to launch into some Sankirtan stories, but I'm only going to tell one. When we were already, going out 5.5 days a week. Back in those days, there was nothing really much going on in Melbourne on a Saturday afternoon. The shops closed at 12. And so we were sort of gearing up. We thought we were collecting, to make it possible to purchase this temple. But what were we going to do? We couldn't waste Saturday afternoons. So it was Yasso who came up with the idea that we should go to the racetracks. And so we went, and we had Srimad Bhagavatams and Bhagavad Gitas and the whole thing. And Yasso just made it seem like magic. He would just go up to the punters, and if anyone's been to the racetracks, people are normally in a high state of anxiety and agitation. And Yasso would put a book into a punter's hands and say, "This will bring you good luck on the next race." Well, you could hardly, argue with that, could you? And look, we just did really huge with the races. And at that time I have to say, I'm sure Simple Presidents GBCs didn't always know how we brought in the Lakshmi. But I feel really deeply honoured to have been part of the process of purchasing and establishing this temple. I didn't personally have a lot of association with Srila Prabhupada, even though I was always there. I was there on the Botanical Gardens walk and one of the Esplanade walks and the Bhaktivedanta and all this, but very rarely had any personal association. But in 1975, when Srila Prabhupada came here to open a temple, I was up for my Brahmin initiation, and I went up to Prabhupada's room by invitation, and he was sitting on that lovely blue chaise lounge that some of you may have seen. Now, you'd think that I would have been really just so happy, but really I was petrified. And I was so nervous about being with Prabhupada that he was trying to show me, how to do the fingering of the Gayatri mantra, and I was just like this. And Prabhupada actually got out his hand and moved my own fingers on my hand with his hand. And of course, that's something I'll never forget. So this temple is always in my heart. I may not be here a whole lot, but it's absolutely part of the fabric of my entire being. I thank all the organisers and everyone who's been involved in this festival. It's just been truly wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Lalita Madhava. I'm known by other names as well. I've had a very colourful association with Krishna consciousness. It started in my 29th year when someone said, there's this amazing guru who's coming from India and he can teach you, show you who God is. So somehow or other I managed to meet Prabhupada, and I heard him say, everyone is looking for God. I can show you God. His name is Krishna. And my heart absolutely exploded. The next minute I was on a plane to India with an 18-month-old baby, and everyone saying, you're disgusting, you're taking a child to India, how revolting, etc. It was very austere compared to the background I'd come from. but it was lovely, and the people were really beautiful. And I thought, well, if this is what Jesus said, there's more I should tell you, but you're not ready to receive it. I'm ready to receive it. So we were all waiting to meet Prabhupada, and all of a sudden I heard someone say, quick, quick, Prabhupada wants you. And I realized that my daughter had gone, moved. And I said, Prabhupada said, who is the mother of this child? When I came around to present myself, there was Radha sitting on Prabhupada's knee. And she was one of the first babies in the temple. And now she's a successful actress in America. And she's still living a Krishna conscious life. And she reads the Bhagavad Gita, and we can talk freely and beautifully about our wonderful spiritual experiences. And I just thank Krishna very much for allowing me in this lifetime to meet Prabhupada, to have read the Bhagavad Gita, and to have built my life around Krishna consciousness. I'm now in my 71st year, and I don't know how much longer I've got, but I know that I can't even clean my teeth without chanting Hare Krishna, so I hope I make it off the planet.
Any other remembrance? Vasu, you'd like to say a few words?
Just probably we can't get out of it.
I've got two things. So first of all, in 1975, that lecture we saw yesterday, Srila Prabhupada started talking about the Aryans that not only were the Indians descendants of the Aryans, but the Europeans also, and the Indians and the Australians. I was at the darshan the night before. That was my first experience of Srila Prabhupada. I've been in a temple somewhere else for a few weeks, and I went to see Srila Prabhupada, and I asked that question, what about the Aryans? Because I sort of come from a European background, I've heard something about it, you know, and Prabhupada answered it quite nicely, but he explained that Arjuna was he was the best of the Aryans in Bhagavad Gita. There was a purport of it, but I was there at the lecture the next morning, and it came out. You see a lot more 40 years down the track than what you hear then, but then he explained that the Aryans all come from Yayadis, so he must have spent a moment thinking about that question, so I was very flattered. But there's another thing that happened in the darshan. Mataji was talking about the ecstasy crew, so there was always a ecstasy crew hanging about Melbourne. So in 1975 there was a particularly strong one. I remember them. They'd sort of come on the weekend and go on the kirtans and everything, and they were there at that darshan. So someone must have worded Srila Prabhupada up about the fact that all these devotees, you know, they come and then they go. So all of a sudden at the end of the darshan, Prabhupada says, why are these devotees not living in the temple? And Madhavisa goes, excuse me, Prabhupada, why are these devotees not living in the temple? And I thought he meant me, because and I thought, oh, he's busted me, he's read my mind, he's read everything. And I joined soon after that. Not that you got me. There was one other most memorable incident that I want to share with the devotees here, because it happened right here. And seeing Srila Prabhupada always, he's in a very grave, see his lectures, he's very grave. Even when he's blissful, you see that Prabhupada's very sober. It's only his intimate devotees sometimes see that nice, lovely smile of Srila Prabhupada. So, one night or two nights after my initiation here, 1976, there was a Sundarati, there was a kirtan, and Guru Kripa was leading the kirtan. He had Banu Maharaj, he had all the Namahata devotees there, so it was a very, very ecstatic kirtan. Prabhupada was sitting there for Sundarati playing the cartels. And Guru Kripa Maharaj, he'd start up there, he'd get his drum, and he'd take a flying, he'd go running down here and take a flying leap and just land on the top step with his drum and everything. Prabhupada lit up. like a great big smile, and he'd run back again. He'd take another flying leap, and he'd leap it through at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would smile again. So it happened about 3 or 4 times. So that exchange between the spiritual master and his one of his favourite disciples was a very nice thing to see. It's very privileged.
Adi Parush, you were here also. Can you say a few words? Stand up for a bit.
I'll try. Hare Krishna. But what I remember is I was upstairs in the Brahmacharya ashram and Prabhupada was coming.
Can you stand up?
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada was coming and I was upstairs in the Brahmacharya ashram putting on my dhoti, and I was actually late. So I come running down these stairs, round the corner, and Prabhupada was coming up the path here. I nearly ran straight into him. And then I quickly stood to the side, paid my obeisances, and when I got up I felt like I had a body. And I got this realization that this person's so powerful that he's just liberated me just in that split second. And another time I was wanting to go out on book distribution, because all the book distributors, they always like to go out and serve Srila Prabhupada by doing book distribution. So one time I wanted to go out, and Hare, sorry, he was the Prabhu commander at that time, and he grabbed me at the gate. He said, "There's pots to be washed." So there I was washing these pots in like a very angry mood, you know. And I was throwing pots into the pot shed. You know. By the time I finished those pots, I was in ecstasy. And I went out and did the biggest score out of all the devotees that day. It was special message. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Hare Krishna. I thought I was off the hook because I've been here for a few days. So many wonderful things do come back to our consciousness. Wow, those early days, we were grihastas from day one. My wife and I, we came along, and that was kind of quite different. Everyone else was pretty much brahmachari. And there were a few grihastas around. And my service at that time was to sell incense. I'd been marked as a person who could count 25 sticks and put them into a packet. So that qualified me to go out and sell them. So off I went, and I think it was, one of the days I had to go, I can't remember if it was Ballarat or Bendigo, to meet some customers. Ugrashava was my mentor, so I was pretty much under Ugrashava's wing. I was a little fellow, and Ugra was 6'3" and massive big guy. And he sent me off to Ballarat or Bendigo, so I finished up my sales expedition up there and got back just in time for the evening class that Srila Prabhupada was giving. And I do remember I was sitting just over there and looking at Srila Prabhupada. Obviously we'd heard many parts of the philosophy and put them all together, but when I was listening and seeing Srila Prabhupada, I saw this very small Indian man sitting on the Vyasa. Srila Prabhupada was not very tall, he was actually very, quite short. I saw it about 5'4", he was quite small. And he was speaking, and I had the experience that I could hear God speaking through Prabhupada. We'd heard that Krishna appears through gurus, or somewhere I got that idea. But when Srila Prabhupada was speaking, I had this amazing experience of, it was Krishna speaking through this personality, so that was quite wonderful. Srila Prabhupada also invited us all up to his room, and there was that famous time when we all piled up to Srila Prabhupada's room, and the whole temple pretty much was in there. And Srila Prabhupada said, "We want want you all to become Guru. We're like, what? We'd only been around for a year or two or whatever time we'd been, and Srila Prabhupada said, I want you all to become Guru. And he preached to all of us that this is the system, this is the family that we've joined, and this is the amazing responsibility that all of us have. And to become Guru, we got it wrong a fair bit for a while. And we thought it had to imitate Prabhupada, sit on a big seat, and so it took us a few years to get over that and realize that to become Guru was simply that we preach to our children, we preach to our family, preach to our village, our country, wherever we are, we become ambassadors of Krishna consciousness. So that was a special time. Srila Prabhupada gave prasadam, everyone was given some small amount of prasadam. Can anybody remember that special darshan that we were all up there? 76, yeah. Would you like to say something? So my thoughts are a little bit random around that. I was very fortunate, my great fortune, I hadn't planned this at all, but here in Melbourne I had limited access like everyone. Ugrashava used to push me, he said, don't let them stop you, get to see Prabhupada. And so I did that in India not long before Srila Prabhupada left the planet. It was maybe about 6 weeks before Prabhupada left. And I have an amazing kind of experience there. And I can't, well, yeah, I don't plan to tell you the whole story, but I wanted to see Srila Prabhupada, and I'd come, was on a business trip to India. At that time we were running a company called USA Fashion Imports here in Melbourne. And it was connected to the ghee thing. Prabhupada wanted ghee, so we'd gone there and we were trying to make some money so that we could maybe purchase ghee, and that was our plan, to bring ghee to India. So I was in Delhi and had some business appointments, and I thought, well, I'll head off to Vrindavan to see Srila Prabhupada. That's why I'd really like to be here, so I headed off to Vrindavan. And being the young, brash, foolish young man that I was, I thought I turned up at Srila Prabhupada's rooms and knocked the door and said, I've come to see Srila Prabhupada. And it's Mao Krishna Maharaj. I said, oh yeah? Have a seat. And, so I said, yeah, I've come to see my guru. And yeah. So anyway, I won't get to all the subtle nuances of the thing, but after I'd been in tears for a little while, and Tamal had dismantled me and said, what have you done that you think that you can come and see Srila Prabhupada? But he was actually coming from another perspective. I had no idea, none of us at that time had any idea that Srila Prabhupada could leave the planet. Srila Prabhupada and Krishna was synonymous. When we spoke of Krishna, there was Prabhupada. So anyway, so I said, yeah, I would like to see Srila. And he said, cut the long story short, he said, if you want to see Srila Prabhupada, you'll stay overnight. You don't go back for your appointments in Delhi that you have tomorrow morning. If you really want to see him, you'll stay. And I thought, okay, I'll stay. So I told the taxi driver, his name is Gurbachan Singh, I can remember the taxi driver. I said, we're staying overnight, so get a room, and he slept in the next bed in the guest house. And so we stayed over, and then Srila Prabhupada came out in his palanquin, and the next morning, and I followed there weren't many devotees actually there at that time. And I followed him in the procession and took darshan. Ugrashava had wired me up with a camera. I'm not a camera-taking film person, but it was one of those new, at that time, new Polaroid cameras. And when you took the photos, it went zoom, and the little thing came out. So I thought, Ugra said, get a photo of Prabhupada, bring photo back for the devotees. So I thought, okay, Ugra's the boss, I'll do what I'm told. Take the photo. So I stand up, and Srila Prabhupada is sitting right opposite Krishna Balaram in the Krishna Balaram temple, yeah. So I stand up right between Srila Prabhupada and Krishna Balaram. And Tamal stand looking at me. And I look up at him, and he said, he gave me a nod, and I went, click. So I took the photo of Srila Prabhupada, and the photo went zoom, and it fell on the floor, and all the Gurukul children kind of went for it with all the Guru told me so. And I'm thinking, no, what have I done? And so then Srila Prabhupada looked over, and at that time it was near the end, so Srila Prabhupada had his dark glasses on because the sunlight was difficult for him. Anyway, he looked over from his taking it, and he looked over and and he wanted the photograph to be passed to him, so they passed the photograph up to Srila Prabhupada. So I went, click. And I've still got a photograph of Srila Prabhupada looking at that photograph. So I was in complete ecstasy. I was standing there, it was all happening. Didn't know what was going on. And so then the darshan was finished, and I actually offered some dakshin at Srila Prabhupada's feet. I don't know how much it was, some amount. And Srila Prabhupada went off, and I was just so happy that I had some connection with Srila Prabhupada. And I thought, yes, I've got to go back to Delhi and get back to other things that I've got to do. And then all of a sudden, Hare came running into the temple room, and he said, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you. And I thought, and I do remember feeling little shivers and all kinds of ecstatic kind of feelings. And so Srila Prabhupada called me to his room, and I sat down, and I won't go into all the details, but he had 2 garlands. These garlands were absolutely huge. They were right down to Srila Prabhupada's below his knees. He had a tulsi garland and a rose garland, and he gestured to give the garland, so he gave 1 garland to Gopal Krishna Prabhu at that time, and 1 to myself. It was the tulsi garland, and I brought it back. I don't know how I got it into Australia, but I brought that garland back, the whole tulsi garland, and distributed it here at the temple. I've still got 1 of the tulsi leaves in a locket, Srila Prabhupada. So he asked me, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know the exact words, and Srila Prabhupada was so merciful, you know. He saw a little spark, some little spark, and he took it upon himself to give his mercy, and I'm so grateful for that, Srila Prabhupada. So he asked, what am I doing? And I said, well, Srila Prabhupada, we've got this business, and we're trying to make money to bring ghee to India. Babbled on about something, I don't know, what I was doing. And Srila Prabhupada patiently just listened for a few minutes, and he said, that is very nice. He said, you make money to me, and you print books to Gopal Krishna, because he was in charge of the Indian BBT, and it was, as usual, Srila Prabhupada perfectly took it. And I took it from that. Srila Prabhupada didn't want me to make money, really. He wanted me to be successful in whatever I was doing. If I was doing that, Srila Prabhupada was encouraging me that whatever you're doing, connect it to Krishna and do something wonderful. So, yeah. And then Srila Prabhupada just laid back. He was so emaciated, and really it was such a shock for us to see Srila Prabhupada at that time. But he was so kind. So I hadn't planned to say this at all, but thank you all very much, and thank you, Srila Prabhupada.
I promise I'll be brief, because I'm sure everyone's waiting for their beautiful brekkie. I'd like to say a few words about Adelaide. We were a very small community, and I can remember the excitement we felt, the small community in Adelaide, that we were coming to Melbourne and Srila Prabhupada would be here. We had met him, well, I had met him, my husband and I, the year before at the Bhaktivedanta, and we were so very, very excited. So we came, and I've noticed that some of the devotees, in their memories, they have a very good memory. They can remember lots of details, and others are struggling to remember details. I fall into that category. But what I did, the first thing that struck me, once Prabhupada was in his room, was the number of people who were seated outside on that grass verge. Young people, just people who'd come And I thought, oh, Srila Prabhupada's fame is spreading. Because look at all these people. They were chanting. They were looking up at Srila Prabhupada's window. And they stayed there for hours and hours. And another thing I remember, it was so busy in this temple. Everybody was running hither and thither with so many services to do. And I was fortunate enough to be yanked up to the sewing room. I'm just still trying to remember, was that sewing room right opposite to Prabhupada's room?
At the top of the stairs and just on the right. Which
Yes.
is the president room now.
Yes, because all the time somebody would be there as we came up and down saying, shh, be quiet. And we were tiptoeing up and down the stairs if we had to leave the sewing room. So they're just a couple of things that I remember. But most of all, like all of us, we remember the beautiful effulgence and the magnanimity of Srila Prabhupada's presence amongst us. It was like entering another world. You just left the material world behind, and when you were near Prabhupada, it became totally transcendental just by the vibrations emanating from his purely spiritual body. And I want to say something else I want to say from the heart. When I first joined and when I came to Melbourne, I was already a mother of 2 teenage children. And as you've seen from the footage, everybody was a child, or so it seemed to me. I noticed Venugopal Prabhu, 16 years of age. Subbalakshmi, also very young when she joined, 17. And Gopal was 16. All mostly very, very young. And they were and are my seniors. And I'm beholden to them. And in particular, my beloved Chamari, who was, I think, 19 when she came to Adelaide and married Chitta Hare. And she became my mother. And she still is. And my very, very dear friend. So I'm beholden to all of those very, very young devotees, because it was very unusual for, at that time, quite unusual for someone of my age to come to Krishna consciousness. And I also remember Lalita Madhava very, very fondly, and I hope you don't mind me saying, Lalita Madhava, that I am almost 76.
I remember Radha saying, Mummy, who's the old lady Gopi?
I'm not sure how to take that yet. So that's just a few remembrances from myself. Thank you very much. And even now, my senior devotees are taking care of me. Ambika, and the devotees at New Govardhan, Krishna Rupa, and from a distance, Chamri. And just to finalize, I would like to thank Bhakti Prabhu very much, and Bhakti, and Aniruddha Prabhu, and Achinchi Rupa. I can't imagine the months, the work, I just can't imagine what a journey this has been for you in organising this amazing festival. What to speak of the cooks, the drivers, people who've given up their homes. Amazing. And I'm staying in the home of a very nice young brahmacharini, and I can't tell you how grateful I am. All of the devotees together in this wonderful temple, working together, and all the services, the pujaris, the cleaners, everything is just absolutely wonderful. Now, there's just one thing I'd like to do. I noticed on the fridge where I'm staying, there was some quotes from Bhakti Theatre. Chanchala, is Chanchala here?
Yeah.
Translate from Bhaktivedanta. And I'm just going to conclude with one of them. There's 4 quotes. And this is what he said. Treat everyone you encounter as if the success of your spiritual life depends upon the quality of your interaction with them. And certainly we've been made so welcome here. The kindness that we've experienced has been overwhelming. Thank you all, everybody, very, very much.
Jai, thank you very much. I had great blessings being in both Burnett Street and coming over here to Dank Street. As some of my godbrothers and godsisters have said, Burnett Street was a real experience. The cold water, the 20 persons to a room, and also that ecstatic arrival of Srila Prabhupada when he'd come, and just everyone somehow managing to fit into the temple room. It was absolutely wonderful. I went back a few years ago to have a look at Burnett Street, and actually I was really astounded to see how tiny the temple was. Even though we kind of thought it was big, if you didn't really fit into the Brahmacharya or the Brahmacharini rooms, you had to sleep in the hallway. And then if you needed to go to the bathroom, you had to walk really across people. That's what we did do to get there. And it was so jammed, but we thought it was a reasonable size. But when I went back and had a look at it, I was astounded to see how tiny it was. I'll just mention a couple of things. Similar to Subha Lakshmi, when I went to take my Gayatri mantra from Srila Prabhupada going up to his rooms, I was terribly anxious. And when also Srila Prabhupada was teaching me to count, Prabhupada looked at me and he says, no, not like that, like this. And he showed me exactly, and it was really, I was so anxious and so nervous. I almost still couldn't even remember what he was showing me, but I knew later I'd be shown. Just another story, couple of stories very quickly. When Srila Prabhupada came once, he was in Burnett Street, he was staying at Augustava's in Brighton, and we used to do his rooms, but I also my Bubby had given me the service of I had to sew sheets together for the lounge room because the carpet was very, very old. So we had 4 sheets, and I sewed these huge sheets, and I was kind of, a little bit attached to that service, and I felt really privileged to be able to do it. And I asked Augustava the day after Prabhupada had come, I said, how are the sheets working out, Augustava? And he says, Chamri, he says, Prabhupada walked in, he put his things down, and he walked around the house, and he walked up to the very centre point where the 4 sheets met. And he looked down at them and he says, these do not match. So actually I was put in my place very quickly. And it was quite wonderful. Also, at that same house, Chittahari mentioned a story not long ago back up in Sydney. And Chittahari had the mercy, with the privilege to be one of the people that stayed over. And in that room, I think there was 4 or 5 men. I'm not quite sure how many, but in the other room, there was Srila Prabhupada. And very early one morning, they had a late night talking to Srila Prabhupada, doing programs. And everyone was in sleeping bags. And Chittahari said that he awoke. And he looked up, and there's Srila Prabhupada in their room. And he was in his sleeping bag, and Madhavisa was in the bag next to him. So Chittahari shook Madhavisa and he said, Prabhupada's here. And Madhavisa said to him, yes, Prabhupada's in Melbourne, yes, he's here. And Chittahari said, no, he's here. And Madhavisa looked up, and there's Srila Prabhupada walking around their room. It's in darkness. And so they all gave their obeisances, and Prabhupada says, I'm just looking how you are living. He said, this is all right, this is very nice. And then he walked out. And it was very, very sweet. And one other time too, Dwaypiana, you might be able to comment, Chittahari was also mentioning that they were coming back from a morning walk, and in the front of the car, Augustava was driving his Madhavisa, and Chittahari had the fortune of sitting in the back with Srila Prabhupada. They were coming past, which we knew at that stage, I think it was Flinders Street station, the big one that's now Southern Cross. There was a big cross section there, and they had to stop at the lights, and there was many people going back and forth. And Prabhupada said, "And what are they doing?" And Chitari said, "They're all going to work, Srila Prabhupada." And Prabhupada said, "Ah." He had a tear in his eye, and he looked around to Chitari, he says, "We must help them, we must help them." And it was a very emotional time that, we take that, we can never lack off in become slack in our enthusiasm to give others Krishna consciousness. But I thank you for the facility that you've put on here, for hosting us, and my God sisters, especially, it's so wonderful to see you, and my God brothers. I thank you for your encouragement, and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I came with my husband in 1975 at the end, after the opening of the temple. Actually, I never intended to stay in Krishna consciousness. From the very beginning, I had a plan. My husband would he was very into Krishna consciousness, and I thought this will wear off, and I'll just kind of go along with it, and then we can go back to our normal everyday life and live happily ever after in suburbia. So that was I always felt like a pretender, and I was. But I did everything the devotees told me to do. So I chanted, and I danced, and I did all the things. I took prasadam, but in my heart, I wanted to be far, far away. I don't mind saying that was true. Until one day, Krishna showed me the material energy. I think I just had a disagreement with my husband, and I said to him, "That's it, I'm out of here." And I remember we were staying in a flat round on Beach Road. I just kind of ran out. And for some reason, Krishna showed me the material energy for what it really was. It was like I realized what they're saying is right. I can't enjoy in this material world. I'll never enjoy in this material world. So I kind of hung my head, and I went back, and I said, let's keep trying. So by the time Srila Prabhupada came, I was ready to be a devotee on my own. So here I am, tripped into Krishna consciousness, no intentions, but somehow or other by the potency of Sri Sri Radha Ballabha, Srila Prabhupada, and all the devotees, I'm still here. Thank you.
Anybody else would like to say something? Saraji?
If I may, I want to issue a riposte about the cold water and the removal of the taps. It just happened that I'd been in the movement about a year. I was in Melbourne, and the temple president decided to leave, so I became the temple president, by de facto. It's like no votes, but I was just a guy that was around. So I discovered that the temple was in heavy debt. We had big bills with the gas company, with the electricity company. Nobody had been paying anything. So I decided that some austerity measures were in place, or required. And I thought, we're using up too much gas, and it's Maya anyway, hot water. So I took the taps off the spigot for the hot water pipe. And I thought, that'll be it, and I told everybody, no hot water showers. So, because the ladies, have to wash their hair, and it was very difficult in cold water. So what I discovered was that people were going in the shower and removing the tap from the cold water spigot and putting it on the hot water spigot and still having hot showers. So at that point I thought, right, okay, that's it. So I got a hacksaw. And I chopped off the end of the hot water spigot so you couldn't fit the tap on it. But there was a good reason for that. And then later on, when we were working on this building, I was the kind of like the work foreman. And we had this guy, Fitz, he was a plumber. So I told him we wanted to turn the toilet block down at the bottom end there into a shower area. So I said, okay, so what do you want for piping? Copper piping or iron piping? You know, what do you want for your hot water? I said, no hot water. He said, that's just Maya. We just put cold water down and everybody was forced to take cold showers. Then in '76 when Guru Kripa came, and then I was with Prabhupada at that time, we arrived. And then when Guru Kripa went down for a shower, of course it was freezing cold. I told him, no, we don't have hot water. And he said, are you nuts? He said, how is anybody going to join if you just, you know, make him take cold showers? So at that point, then they decided to put hot water in.
Hare Krishna. I actually didn't join Krishna consciousness here in Australia, but I actually met the devotees the first time at the Sunday feast. And my friends, they went uptown and the devotees were chanting on the street. And all of a sudden a paddy wagon came and stuck them all in there. And one of the devotees yelled out from the paddy wagon, please go to our temple and tell our temple president that we're all in jail. And so my friends did, they went there and he invited them to the Sunday feast. And that was in Bondi, yeah. Anyway, so we were living in a little flat in Paddington at the time, and I was the only one working, and there was about 5 people living in the flat, so I was paying the rent, maintaining everything. And so when the day came to go to the Sunday feast, the friends said, oh, we're not going to go, and I said, why not? And they said, we've got no money. And I said, oh, well, look, I'll pay for the taxi and we'll go there, because it was Sunday. So we went to the Sunday feast, and that was my first experience. And as I am a cook, Prabhupada said, one who likes to eat will cook well. So I've always liked to eat it from a child. So I remember the sweet rice and the gulaps, still to this day. So I left and went overseas, and all along the way from Australia right up until 8 months later, Krishna kept on giving me little taste of Krishna consciousness through meeting people that knew the devotees. And I joined in Amsterdam, and I went to London to get initiated by Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was saying there on that DVD that if you take this process seriously, then you'll achieve the goal at the end of the life. And so when Prabhupada initiated me, he must have seen I was a little bit scared, because I was brought up in a family of 6 children, but not kind of really exposed to large amounts of people. So when we were in the temple room and getting initiated, I must have been looking a bit afraid. So Prabhupada said to me, don't be afraid. If you follow this process, you'll go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this life. So after that, I went from Amsterdam to Germany, and one time Narachaki came for a visit. Narachaki was Deepak's wife, and Hamsadutta had said to me, Saravi, do you want to go back to Australia? And I said, no, I want to stay here, because all the German devotees were naturally my family. And then Narachaki came and she told me all about Australia and how mean the men were and how they wouldn't give them any Mahaprasad. And how they used to take the whole Mahaprasad upstairs to the men. And the women would never get any. And in Germany, oh, it was a wonderful family there. Everyone used to stand in line and everyone would get Mahaprasadam, and even to the last little bit of water that was sitting in the pan, we'd put our hand out for that. So Himavati and Hamsadutta looked after us very well, and I thought, I'm never going back to Australia. But, and then, by chance, some years later, Harikesh, who never liked householders, he told all the householders to get out of the temple, and he told us, you should go to some English-speaking temple, because Havidam was good at speaking English. And at that time, we were making candles. all the householders, and that's why the householders supported his house. So he sent us back to Australia. He found out that I was from Australia. He said, "Oh, very good, go there." And my dad and my brother paid our tickets to come here. So we came to Australia, and we came to Melbourne Temple on the first day, and we bought the candle. And at that time, Madhavisa had gone, and the Australian devotees were really not making hardly any money. $100 a week, they said. And they were maintaining this beautiful temple here. So my husband at the time, he set up the candle business. And actually Australia was going through a really rough time financially. And he set up a candle business here. And he tried to do it for himself, but it kind of didn't work. So he gave it to the temple, and they gave him a wage. And then he set up one in Sydney, and then New Govardhan, and then went to New Zealand and set one up. But I just wanted to say to you all that I had lots of association with Srila Prabhupada in Europe 7 times. And when I came here, the devotees were so excited. They told us that Prabhupada was coming. That was 1977, April. But I always remember the devotees here and how wonderful they were, and how they welcomed me and my husband and my little daughter into Krishna consciousness. And it was hard for me to leave Germany. That was my family, the German way of life, and how the cleanliness and everything. I got a bit of a shock when I came to Australia and met the devotees here. We never had a prasadam bin in Australia, in Germany. You ate every scrap on your plate, and if you couldn't eat it, you took to the ashram and you ate it the next morning or that night. And when I came here and I've seen that big prasadam bin out the back, I nearly cried because they were throwing so much prasadam away. And beg your pardon?
The
fish enjoyed it. Leave the soil. Yeah, and but no, I felt like that you all welcomed me into your family here in Australia, and I want to thank you all very much. And I feel kind of like, even though I wasn't here in those early days, I still feel very much a part of that time. You too. And thank you very, very much.
Hare Krishna, everybody. It's great at my adopted home. I met Prabhupada quite a few times in England, but some things remain the same wherever you go. And often people wanted to see some sort of mystical aspect of Srila Prabhupada. And quite clearly today we've heard how Prabhupada did have lots of mystic powers. One was how he could get so many people, so many devotees in one building. And one time it was in London at a very place, terrace building, very similar, many devotees living there. And there's a knock on the door, and it was the census man. They come around doing the census. In those days they didn't need the form, they'd write down. So they said, we're doing the census, can you tell me who's living here? Age groups. So I said, just hold on. I went inside. I came back out. I said, we've got 17 females under 25, got 14 over 25, with the men 21 under 25 and 11 over 25. And he looked at me like, oh. And I said, mind you, I can't speak for the people upstairs. Anyway, regarding Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada had a great, he was very attached to Australia, and I heard him say a few things. One time I was at Bhaktivedanta, and Prabhupada was in his room, and I happened to be there. I was very fortunate, And Prabhupada's secretaries then were discussing itineraries, and they were going on to India after England, and discussing different times and different flights. And Prabhupada said, oh, no, we have to fly Qantas. So Prabhupada respected the fact that the Australian airline was the best. I don't know if there is any more, but certainly in those days. I'll just tell you one thing, because it's always dear in my mind, because it's something you remember. And I was telling this story yesterday, but most memories, apparently, scientists have proven, are connected with our sense of smell. So very often people panic if they smell a certain smell, something reminds them of smoke or various things from our childhood very often. Anyway, when Prabhupada first time I saw Sri Prabhupada when he came to England, he came from Los Angeles, and he arrived at the temple, and the temple door opened up and Prabhupada walked in, and there was this incredible fragrance. Now, living in London, they got a few flowers, got some roses and chrysanthemums, that kind of thing. But Prabhupada had been in Los Angeles, and he was wearing a garland. He had a garland of gardenia flowers. As you know, they're such a beautiful, fragrant, sweet, heavenly flower, and I'd never smelled anything like it. And that's how I felt Prabhupada smelled. I thought that was, of his body, because he's such a beautiful spiritual body, actually, and so it had this incredible fragrance. So now, even many, many years later, if ever I catch this fragrance coming from a gardenia flower, I always think of Prabhupada. So, if any of you are around when I'm dying, it's only a gardenia.
Hare Krishna. I don't know if I can match some of the speeches I've heard, but it's been so enjoyable hearing them. Just a couple of things I remembered, following on from what others said. When Prabhupada was here in '76, Jai Srila Prabhu asked Prabhupada a question. He said, why is it that only young people are taking the Hare Krishna movement, not old people? Prabhupada's answer was very short and sweet. He said, they are simply old fools. And we also find that it probably hasn't changed a lot, actually. Young people are joining, but we're not capturing those older people. A couple of other things. I don't have many funny stories, but a couple of funny stories. I used to, Sarabi was talking about prasadam. So it was my duty in Vishvahetu was to dispose of that prasadam. So in the early days we used to go down to Port Melbourne, where the Empress, what's it called, that boat that goes to the Spirit of Tasmania. So we used to take our wheelie bins and the whole combi van full of prasadam and drive onto the wharf and tip it over the side. But one time we got caught by this wharf employee, and he said, "What are you guys doing?" And we simply replied, "We're feeding the fish." So every time we come here to feed the fish every week, and somehow he seemed to be satisfied by that. Another time, so we found a new location at the end of North Road. There's a boat ramp, right? So we go down there, it was about midnight one night, Vishvahetu and I drive down. We drive onto the boat ramp, we drive onto the boat ramp sideways. And of course the boat ramp is very greasy and covered with moss. So the van slipped off the boat ramp into the water. But we were lucky because the tide had been going out. And but we couldn't, so the water was coming into the van. We'd already tipped out some of the garbage. So there was all this prasadam floating. And we had to wait for about 2 hours till the tide went out, so we could get some bags and bits of twigs, and it used to be called Lovers Nook down there. So all the people in their cars would go down there. So they were all watching us. It ended up helping us to get the van back up onto the ramp so we could drive back to the temple. And we got back here just before Mongoladi. Another thing I remember is, like Hare always mentioned the cold water. That was one of the things I found really difficult. We used to have these taps down in the Brahmacharya toilet here. It was just there was no shower rows or anything. We used to call it the bowl. And I noticed how the devotee population was very seasonal. During the summer, the numbers would swell, you know. The temple was popping. But during the winter, there was just a very skeleton crew. And I also noticed there were some very dear people who actually left the temple during those times. It was just too hard. Because we were taking baths, you know, 2 or 3 times a day at least. And in the winter here, as you know, it's quite cold. It's quite challenging. Yeah, so I thought you'd like to hear those few things. Hare Krishna.
Up here today, Prabhu, is just ecstatic. This is actually why all the devotees here in Melbourne did this, to hear this nectar coming from you all. Thank you so much.